Hi there, Dr. Martin. I'm going to be talking to you about the midterm reflection essay written. As you said, I could do it by video, so I'm choosing to do by video. Thank you for that, by the way. Did I? Question one: Did I agree with the character I played? Why or why not? I'm not sure if I necessarily agreed with them, but I understood the points and I thought that they were valid within the concerns of the person. And with some of the things, I understand why they would have chosen that. And I agree with the fact that with someone who's older, they'd be more concerned about themselves and their own property versus more of a widespread view. So I'm not sure if it's exactly agreement, but more understanding, which allowed me to kind of come to my decisions. I didn't really base my decisions off the climate change data because me and Avery kind of talked about it and we were like, it'd be really hard to do this because we're in a group where not necessarily everyone believes in this. And because we're trying to create this wide sweeping character, it's not really fair to take the stance of I do or I don't believe in it, and based off our decisions. Whenever we look at things like coastal restoration, it was more about protecting the beaches and protecting the property than saving the environment. What were the three top choices, and how did our group finally come to those? So my three choices were proposals 2, 3, and 6, because I believe that these would be the most beneficial to me, and also have some built-in sweeping things that could help out the community short-term and long-term. How did our group ultimately come to this decision? So our group decided that we were going to do this through democracy, and if something received a vote of 4 or higher, that would be passed through, because it'd be really, really hard to, it'd be really hard to really get something unanimous, because there's always going to be people who don't agree, especially when you're coming from different roles. So ultimately, there were other people who did not agree with necessarily others' choices, and I think by reading how things were laid out, and by rereading things based off how things were going, they changed their votes to coincide with what they believed was the best going forward. So the method that I chose, I somewhat already explained upon that, and that was choosing what was most beneficial to me, short term and long term. But I also want to make sure that some of them were also not just beneficial to me, but they were beneficial to the whole community, and we would all be reaping rewards from it. Because of this fact that I'm playing a character where I moved here because I fell in love with the place. I would also want things to go into policy that, first and foremost, help me, but secondly, help the community. The negotiation, ours was slow to get started, and once everything got going, it happened fast. So I guess that kind of reflects governance in the fact that it generally takes a long time to really get things happening. And the way that things kind of happened, there wasn't much real bickering or discussion about it. It was just kind of people going, oh yeah. People more along the lines of, let me relook at these, and then they changed their votes based off the fact of what they thought was best. So it was very much a very streamlined perspective upon voting, which seen especially with the Senate recently, where people could not agree on voting. That generally doesn't happen in governance. There's a lot of bickering and a lot of collusion and working people to kind of get them to think how you're thinking. I don't really believe that there really was in this case. These might not have all these policies might not have been reflective of the Horry Georgetown community, because generally speaking, at forums like this, there's outspoken groups of certain demographics, and they tend to get their way just by showing up en masse and being the loudest voice. And that wasn't really something that happened here in our discussions. There were people that voiced things more, but we weren't really trying to force a vote upon anyone in comparison to someone might really try to, in comparison to people in the community might really try to cram down your throat how they want things to be. How could you engage these skills to help communities and campuses create a more sustainable and resilient policies? I'm a believer in that policy should be multi-beneficial, so it shouldn't be, money shouldn't all go to one place in any kind of policy. It shouldn't just benefit one group. It should be beneficial, first off, short-term, and secondly, have long-term payoffs as well. Because it should have short-term benefits, either firstly and foremost, or be more of a long-term policy. But they both have to have both the short-term and long-term gains in some way when you're looking at policies in a local community. And these are things where we can look at it for being more resilient, looking at trying to change things, trying to change policies and ways things are done in communities to be greener and be more active and promote these things with policies, such as we did with, we tried to uplift the community by spending some money on infrastructure and then also restoring beaches, which could bring more money in the long term and in the short term and long term. So, probably my closing thoughts is that this was a hard discussion to do over the internet where it's just text. I think if something like this were to happen again, it'd be much more suited to a discussion and something like Discord or something like that, where everyone can kind of talk and be able to voice their opinions all at once instead of kind of working throughout days of people kind of saying things based off when they're seeing the context. And that's about it.